Welcome to Better Than Air. I'm Dr. Renee Detky. This is Dan Putman, licensed massage therapist and pain specialist. And we are here with Trey Durden talking about his book, Back from Hell, that he wrote with Dr. David Kemp. Trey, thank you for writing the book. We all have enjoyed it, those of us that had read it.
Good, I'm glad.
Describe the moment when you realized that your body was failing and conventional medicine wasn't helping.
So, the Lyme disease, from the medical doctors that they were helping me, they did a lot. They helped decrease the bacterial infection inside. However, after 5 PICC lines and a whole bunch of antibiotics, oral and intravenous, and all of the stuff that they had combined, it wasn't necessarily working. We'd get the bacterial infection down enough to where I was sustainable, but then it would always come back.
So at what age do you feel like you got a tick bite and Lyme disease started?
I got a tick bite at 8, and then from there, back then they just had oral antibiotics, which seems like a joke now. Yeah. And then we had to do, like I said, 5 PICC lines throughout, but pretty much at 22 was pretty much the downfall. When I was 22 years old, I couldn't, I was bedridden all day. I couldn't think, couldn't work, couldn't do anything. So it was pretty debilitating in that sense.
Yeah. So this book, why did you all decide to write the book? You know, I kind of followed you from afar because I've been friends with David, and at first he was videotaping you and your progress.
Right.
What made you guys decide to write a book?
Well, he's never really had a patient that he's had patients like me before.
Right.
The one thing that kind of was a little bit different was I was able to catch on to what he was teaching, and then I was also able to, once I figured out that what he was doing was actually working, because at first sight, when you see him do stuff, you think this is ridiculous, you know? And it's just like, what is this, right? But then after...
Why am I spinning? Why am I waving my hand?
Exactly. Yeah. Why are you doing this? Yeah. And multiplane? You know, I don't. And then I was like, I'll give it a try, right? Or at that time. And then as you start to do it all, it actually started to work. And it did alleviate some symptoms. And I'm like, well, let's just see how far this can go. And then from there, I just kept doing exactly what he said. And this was pretty much the last line of defense, because at that time, I had pretty much no function on the right hemisphere. So I couldn't read body language. You can't read facial expression. Yeah. It was almost like a bullet point fragmented speaking. I need this. I want this. This is me. Can I have this? And then there was no more after that. So as we started to basically, and I was hunched over like this and was hyperkyphotic, and then because of my dystonia, I had the hand kind of like this as well, and then still to this day, my right arm is significantly bigger than my left arm. My left leg, or I'm sorry, right leg is significantly bigger than my left leg, and I constantly have to work out the left side of my body 20% more than the right side.
Wow. Because
of the dystonia. You can't really tell by looking at me. It's
right.
Very, very small now, or the distinction between them. But yeah, once we started to increase more blood flow to the right hemisphere because of my neck, lower back, and mid-back lesions that were decreasing blood flow, so the blood flow would go up, wasn't able to hit everything in the right hemisphere, and then wasn't able to dump. So therefore, it would simulate bipolar symptoms. And there's a whole another thing on bipolar, which is actually just blood flow, fluctuations of blood flow in different hemispheres, activating and inhibiting certain things. So they say it's bipolar. Nah, you just have a problem with your neck and your lower back, actually. But every single bipolar person that I've ever met, they always have a neck lesion and a lower back lesion, and it's just all about blood flow. But they put me on a whole bunch of meds when I was 18 to basically decrease symptoms, but what it was doing is just inhibiting my brain from activating. So it was making it smaller, basically. But it made the symptoms go away from the highs and lows from the manic and depressive, but it was coating my midbrain with a whole bunch of toxins and then making everything just nasty. So
so by 22, you were actually much worse than you were at 18?
Yes. Well, yeah. Well, the antibiotics destroyed my gut function. So destroyed the flora, and the little microbiomes that actually create electricity and energy, that was pretty much destroyed with any antibiotics, right? And then also creatinine levels and everything with the kidneys that was destroyed, so I had to pee pretty much every 2 hours. And then also the antibiotics also, they killed the bacteria, or the bad bacteria, but then again it also killed everything else. But also I had to take 14 pills a day, lithium Seroquel, Lamictal, Klonopin, all the stuff to basically decrease everything, since the left side was overactive and then the right side was underactive. So it was just a whole chemical cocktail of nonsense that they had me on, and they just kept adding more stuff instead of actually fixing the problem. They were just going for the symptoms and not necessarily the problem. So that's why I have such a hard time talking to other medical physicians that push pills and they only focus on the symptoms and not necessarily the underlying problem.
But on their behalf, they were trying to help.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So when did you, in your book, you first started to work, and that would have been a massive shift because earlier you were just laying in bed every day. So the ability to get out and work a 40-hour week was a monumental change. What did that feel like when all of a sudden you could go out and work and you could be at a job? Because that's a huge shift from somebody that's in bed every day. What did that look like?
Give us a timeline.
Yeah, so in the book, we wanted it to be biblical with the 144 pages. And to get everything down to 144, it was actually going to be around 300 or 400 pages, but we figured that was going to be too long for our style. So the timeline for that, we have a little bit of the beginning so everyone understands that the way you were born is very huge. That dictates pretty much your entire life unless you want to fix it. But then we pretty much went to, the first time I saw Dr. Kemp, and I was 28 years old. Okay. And then from there, we started doing some stuff. I barely remember that. That was all so foggy, to be honest. We did have video that reminded me of the stuff, so we were able to use that, right? But then I started showing signs that my back was doing a lot better since I was hunched over like this, and I had a whole bunch of problems. My parents had decided that it was a good time for me to, they were doing their best to figure out where I was going to be in society. And given everything that they had learned from everyone else and the doctors they were talking to, they thought I was going to be like that forever. So they're like, well, he needs to go ahead and get a job and stuff, which I totally agree with. So, but they weren't expecting anything more. They were, okay, he's going to be stuttering forever. He's going to be this way. He's probably not going to be able to leave the home pretty much forever and stuff like that. So once I made the underwater breathing apparatus, since I didn't have access to a hyperbaric chamber. And I made it with a painter's mask and the other thing that floats with the noodles and stuff. Now, the amount of atmospheres doesn't even...
oxygen added to it? Did you have supplemental oxygen? You
No.
just went under pressure and breathed?
Well, it wasn't... my head was only this far under. It was the concept of being weightless.
Okay.
Also it was the concept of being weightless, and it was also the concept of, since I had to manually breathe, since it's a painter's mask, I designed it so the air comes in, and then when you blow out, the filters on it, would exit.
Okay.
So therefore, I wasn't rebreathing my own. That would be stupid.
Carbon dioxide, right?
Right, and my parents didn't understand that, and I had to like show them. Since I wasn't able to articulate that, I had to show them with
a mathematical formula.
Well, no, I had to draw it, and basically,
okay.
and then have them put it on, and they're just like, I don't, whatever, they didn't know what to do.
But you knew it was helping. Both
Well, yes.
Your back and your brain.
Yes, and then I designed my brother was a scuba diver as well, so he had a weighted thing, and I would put that on, and then literally just say weightless. My head was only under that much, and I was able to focus on just breathing. But the concept of it is my spine would elongate the longer I would stay down.
So you were vertical.
Yes. Absolutely, totally vertical. And since the weighted vest was about 5-10 pounds, which is pretty much the compensation of airflow that was in my lungs to keep me, because I would just bob, sort of.
Right.
So therefore, it was a neutral buoyancy was what I was trying to get. But then you do that for about 20 minutes or more. The longest I did was an hour. And then when you get out and go, you feel great. You feel absolutely fantastic.
Like climbing out of a hyperbaric
exactly.
chamber.
Yeah, pretty much the same thing.
Well, and so obviously the pressure of the water on your ribs, the intercostals, your diaphragm, and everything you're using to breathe, you're actually working out those muscles to making them stronger with the water pressure on each side. So that was kind of brilliant. Did your parents realize that you're kind of brilliant when you came up with that?
No, I guess they're just so used to it. Maybe they didn't see it as a big deal because I've been building stuff my whole life. But I didn't really know what I was doing. I just did it because I saw Starship Troopers, and I was like, "Hey, that looks good. I'll just build that, right?" And my back hurt so bad because after
whatever you could do to.
Oh, it was so bad. Just every single vertebral body would just burn constantly after an adjustment, and then trying to because my brain wasn't good enough to inhibit the thalamus to decrease the pain. So it was it just wasn't working. So it was just burning, and then I had several bulging discs, and they didn't herniate, but they were pretty bad. So the concept of the underwater breathing apparatus would help me concentrate and elongate my spine enough to where the difference in oxygen consumption would put my body into a survival mode, so therefore it would force oxygen to the vertebral bodies to basically elongate them, and then it worked. It's the concept of the
hyperbaric.
Did you do this daily? Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. For how many years?
I did it for pretty much a whole year until the plastic just got so nasty. It's like molding and stuff. I'm like, okay, I don't need this anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did it for a whole year, and then my brother actually used it to train for his underwater stuff to become a Navy SEAL.
Oh, wow.
So for Navy SEAL training. So he really enjoyed that as well. He would, because you could walk underwater with it as well and just kind of get used to being underwater. But it's pretty much gone now because it just gets so nasty from being in and out of the water so much. You just kind of throw it away. I could make another one. Problem is it wouldn't be a good sell because not many people have pools in their backyard. So, but luckily we did have a pool. I would rather get a hyperbaric chamber. Yeah, but I didn't even know what that was. So back then.
So tell us about some of the things you left out of the book. You initially thought it would be 300 pages. So.
Right. So we really wanted to go into. There's a lot of theories that we're not able to necessarily speak about because they're theories, right? I hate theories, by the way. It's like because most of the things we already know. It's kind of like the string theory. I think it's ridiculous, but. When we talk about certain things, it's kind of like we know it's true. It's just we can't prove it yet. So it's kind of like different parts of the brain.
It's still a theory.
It's still a theory,
Yeah.
but it's like, well, we know, we just can't. There's other parts of the equation that we can't quite get to. So it's like, well, I can't fully explain it, so I just sound like an idiot when I tell people. But the concept of equilibrium, we did not go into because I couldn't explain it, and I still can't. But for the foundation that we started, I'm presenting the theory, but I'm not finishing it because we can't. But it would be the concept of having a perfect brain, technically. The reason why you would even go to do spinal sculpting, which is technically what that is.
Right.
And why you're doing the hyperbaric chamber, why you're doing any of this is to get your brain where it's able to activate and inhibit perfectly.
Perfectly.
Yeah.
But which is really only a theoretical.
Right.
So.
It would be the concept of the Christian Bible with Jesus, like the Christ consciousness. Technically, is the theory. But that's one concept. The other concept is throughout the story we left out a ton because one, it was too graphic. Two, it was too inappropriate, and three, it was probably not something that you normally share. For example, like for the whole sales part, when I went from being homebound to my first job, there was a little bit of a leeway there, and I was more like a robot, like we were discussing earlier, and I was the perfect employee, but I would never say no. I never challenge. I just do whatever you said, very much like like Forrest Gump. Like right. It's like, oh, I just did what they said, right?
Yeah.
I do whatever you tell me to, drill sergeant, stuff like that, right? But and then I'd get everything done, and then move on. And the other part that we didn't go into too much is that I couldn't really talk. Like I couldn't communicate. Like as soon as you would see me and talk to me, it's like, yeah, something's wrong with you. And then it would kind of put people off, and it would scare them because I'm a relatively large person. I'm only 5'11", but I'm 225 pounds, and I used to work out a lot.
Awkward in sales, especially.
Well, yeah.
Was this your first job?
No. This was I'm not going to say names, but this was the hospice delivery company.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
So went from pretty much I cannot work. Hospice delivery technician.
Okay.
And I would, put the beds together and do all the stuff for the hospice people, and then having to deal with that. Yeah. That was just awful.
But even though you couldn't communicate, you got rave reviews.
Right.
People would call up and say, "This young man is fantastic," and would talk really good about you and get accolades. And you were working to like 10 o'clock at night because you never said no. I mean, you were just from sun up to sundown. You never said no. You were like Forrest Gump. You were just doing the job.
Right. And also, people just want to be listened. They just want someone to listen. And when someone's on their deathbed after you just made it for them, I still had empathy, so my insula still worked. Mm-hmm. So I still had empathy for everyone. So therefore, I would, I kind of feel bad. Yeah, I'll listen to whatever you say. And then after they're done with their spiel or whatever, they feel content with me. And then I just go, okay, well, have a nice day, or whatever I was able to do or say at that moment, because it would fluctuate, And then I could only see Kemp on Saturdays at that time. And once a week instead of twice a week. So
now, how long had you been seeing him at this point?
Probably almost 2 years.
Okay.
So I was already
to take you from bedridden to functioning.
No, I take that back. Sorry, 6 months. 6 months of him, but I saw him every other day.
Okay.
Because we were able, my parents paid for it, because it was the only thing that I would respond to that I wanted to do.
Yeah.
Is to go be with Kemp. So that's the thing we talk about. Is in the beginning there's a photo in there that talks about brain function.
Yeah.
And that because every time I would get adjusted, it would alleviate the symptoms momentarily, and then the dystonia would come back. So I'd get adjusted, I'd feel great, oh God, I can sleep, and then after a couple days, it would do like this, right? And then everything would go back to the way it was previously. So then we found out, okay, I need to go every day or every other day.
Okay.
And then we found out that just by doing that every other day, by doing the adjustments and the spinning and everything, that I was able to finally get to a point where I wouldn't return back to what I was previously. And that took 6 months. After that, that's when I was able to move on to my job and do it and go see Dr. Kemp once a week.
Okay.
So that was crucial. But not many people can even afford that or have the time for that.
Oh, yeah.
But that's why there's a photograph in there that shows the fluctuations in brain brain capacity. And
describe the spinning for people that don't know about this.
So from my point of view, it's just vestibular rehabilitation technically. So the vestibular system is basically on either side of your brain. It's your cochlear place. So you're able to, and Dr. Kemp's going to crucify me, but basically when you move in space and time, it tells you where you are. So if your vestibular system is off, when you move, you don't know where you are. So therefore, you're going to fall. You have more likely to fall, or more likely to do, have an issue there. One of the easiest ways to fix the vestibular system, which tells you like I'm leaning forward, I'm leaning back, or like your otolith, when you accelerate in your car and you go back like this, you're like, oh wow, that was fast, right? The way to activate or inhibit that, depending on where your lesion is to spin in real life. And then we did talk about that concept where the brain can't tell the difference between what's imaginary and what's real. So therefore you would envision someone of the opposite sex that would increase dopaminergic response in your brain, and then basically you envision that about arm's length away in a grassy field, neutral colors, and then you spin to the opposite side of where the lesion is, the contralateral side. And if you do that, you do it in your mind, you do it with your eyes open or eyes closed, whatever.
So your spins are always to the left?
Yeah, always. I have spun to the left so many times.
Thousands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, and we talked about that first time because I didn't believe him. I was just like, yeah, whatever. This is crazy, right? But then I did do it, and I did it real slow with his instructions, and I envisioned, a girl I had a crush on at the time or whatever, and then all of a sudden my pupil response went back to normal, and instead of them being super dopey and huge, they were actually closed, and I was actually calm for the first time, and I'm like, wow, it did work. And then he showed me in the mirror, he's like, look, your pupils are normal.
Oh, yeah.
And it's like, that actually worked. So mind over matter, and the brain can't tell the difference between what's real and what's fake. So
you were able to. Your parents must have had a sigh of relief when they said he's not going to be in bed the rest of his life, and so you got a job. You were like a super employee, like a bionic employee almost.
A robot. I would definitely just say a robot. Yeah.
Yeah, that didn't say no.
No personality.
Yeah.
Zero.
But you still had speech problems at that time.
Oh yeah, very much so.
And then you eventually you moved to St. Augustine.
Yes.
And you got a place of your own. What was that like, moving out from your parents' home, where you had you lived in a constricted place in your room, and then you moved out and you were a free man, and you were earning your own money? What did that feel like to you at that time?
Well, at that time it seemed appropriate. The thing was, previously, before the age of 22, I not necessarily lived on my own, but did my own thing. Mm-hmm. So I was my own person before I got sick. Mm-hmm. So it's not necessarily that I didn't remember. It was, or what it felt like to have independence. It was more like I was able to finally be my own person again. Mm-hmm. But it was a sigh of relief, and I still with the job that I had delivering hospice materials, I was able to rent a condo in a haunted house in St. Augustine off of George Street, which was hilarious. But yeah, it was very interesting. Stuff would just fly off the table, and you're like, how did that happen? Oh. But I did have. You at all, huh? Yeah. Well, it was definitely a sight. But my parents did help me out with cash flow and stuff. But they figured that at my age, I shouldn't necessarily stay with them, and they were trying to, go ahead and push me out of the nest. But it's definitely appropriate at the age I was for that to happen. But they did help me out with cash flow because the current job that I had, and since the housing crisis, it's just been awful, right? Yeah. So, but I was able to technically live on my own in a condo, and I did get, technically my first girlfriend after the injury. I was technically engaged before I got sick, to some degree. I had been with my girlfriend for many years, like high school sweethearts and stuff. And then pretty much at 22, I was so far gone, or not being myself, changed and all this kind of stuff. And then she had the spiel about you're not the person that I thought you were anymore. And I'm like, I don't feel good. And then she's like, okay, I'm gone. And I'm like, all right, well, that's acceptable. Yeah. I didn't think much of it because I was just worried about what's about to happen to my head, basically, like what's going on. So it was really nice to feel love again. But the thing was she spoke in metaphors, and I did not understand a word she was saying. Oh. But it was, but yeah, I had to get her to explain her lingos and stuff she said. But since I had a right brain disorder, like she would say metaphors like, oh, this cup is as big as a mountain, and I'd be like, I don't understand that. And she'd be like, what's wrong with you, right? But then she was accepting of it because I was reciprocating to her emotional needs as she was 20 and I was 28, 29, yeah, something like that. So we pretty much she was actually more mature than me, technically, at that time. But, and then it was just interesting that I was even able to hold a relationship. And that's why we added that in the book. Mm-hmm. We did not add, which to answer your original question, we did not add the part where when I was transitioning with my father's help, I did not get this on my own. My father's help, my father works in the medical field, or used to work in the medical field, and he in spinal implant surgery. So he basically got me an interview. Without his help, there's no way I could have ever even applied for it. But
you had a college degree at this point, didn't you?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
okay.
I had. I technically was arrested in high school. So I walked out in handcuffs because they found a knife in my car. And back then they had a zero tolerance policy. So they thought I was a bad person and I was a straight A student. But so we actually had but we left that out of the book as well because it wasn't necessarily relevant. Yeah. But and then technically they're like, oh, you're going to go to your whatever. And this was like pretty much the last 5 weeks of school as a senior, being walked out in handcuffs because I had a knife in my car in Florida where everyone's got guns in their cars. Yeah. So, and people go hunting after school all the time, mm-hmm. and then they come and pick on me. So we banded as a community technically and wrote letters to the school system, and they changed their zero tolerance policy. Because it was ridiculous. You got a straight A student that's never done a bad thing in their life, and that's getting escorted out.
Didn't bring a knife into school.
No, absolutely not. Well, I was actually using it to cut my brother's mouthpiece for his games that he went to. He played lacrosse, and he's 10 years younger than me, right? I'm the oldest, so you take care of everyone, right? You have no choice. But his mouthpiece wouldn't fit, so I had a knife. 2-inch pocket knife.
Yeah.
You know, you cut it, right, because it wouldn't fit in his mouth. So, yeah, and I left it on the console of my car, and of course the lady going around checking all the vehicles. In the high school that I went to looked like a prison, anyways. But anyways, the way she went over, saw it, and then boom, they come get me in class, and I'm like, this is embarrassing. What did I do, right?
Yeah.
And then they said, oh, well, sorry, you can walk, if you want. And I'm like, all right. So I did, but I didn't. Well, the thing was, it was kind of like weird because I was so sick all the time from all the issues. You have to have a certain number of days that you're actually in school, and I didn't meet that requirement because I would always call out sick, either with Lyme issues, doctor's appointments, my back hurt, I can't wake up, stuff like that. So technically I didn't pass high school, but since I got arrested, they said, oh, well, you can walk and you can get your graduation thing if you want. And I'm like, I don't care. Like, this I thought high school was so stupid. It was ridiculous. And
because you were too smart to be there. You can make straight A's and not even go to
well,
class.
that's the thing. That's another thing we also left out. I wasn't that smart back then. So I had a normal IQ back then, or higher than average, but consider it normal. I was an A student for sure.
So if I work with David enough, that I will be as smart as you?
So that's the part we left out, is that yes, if you increase your brain function and if you increase the parts of your brain that are not necessarily as toned,
right,
then yes, you increase your overall IQ.
So have you measured? I mean,
yeah.
So what?
Yeah, and we left that part out too because we did take a test and I scored off the charts, right? And then from there, my phone got hacked, and then my family's phone got hacked, and then I was followed for a while. So I don't want to talk about that, but yeah, I'm not doing that again. So if anyone asks me to take a test,
they don't know. Right?
Nope.
So
nope.
I want to kind of change the topic because I know you and Dr. Kemp have put together a foundation.
That's correct, yes.
Tell us more about the Functional Neurology Foundation. Am I saying it right?
Yes, Functional Neurology Relief Foundation.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the Functional Neurology Relief Foundation, we started it basically because we wanted to bring more awareness to functional neurology, because when we talk about it, no one knows what we're talking about. Like, no one understands it, they don't get it, like, it's not mainstream. So I'm like, okay, how do we tell people that they have options? So I'm not that kind of person anymore to just force it on people, because if you had talked to me 3-4 years ago, I would just force it on you. You'd have no choice, because they didn't understand the concept of the person didn't want to do it, right? But 6 years ago, I'd say. But we want to be able to give people options for therapy. If they want to do the medical route, you're more than welcome to. I already know how that's going to end up, but it's like we have to technically.
Will cover it.
Right. Well, yeah, exactly. Insurance will cover it, right? But we wanted to give people options, or at least let them know about it. So we wanted to. That's the whole goal, is to bring more awareness to functional neurology that Dr. Ted Carrick designed. He came up with the term. It was technically called like chiropractic neurology, chiropractic neurology, something, and then. He coined the term functional neurology because it's not like you need to know where stuff is in the brain. That doesn't really matter. You need to understand how it operates with each other, and the pathway that comes from starting here all the way down to your hand to grab the cup. Because every thought you've ever had starts at the front. So the frontal lobe. So that was his thing, is to explain that pathway, and then, okay, why is there a tremor? And then go and do basically processes of elimination to go, oh, there's probably parasites in your cord, or MS, or whatever that is causing the tremor, or in the central nervous system, or it could be further on inside the cortical brain, or it could be in the midbrain. It could be, where is the problem along that pathway? And then that's the whole science of it. And once you understand that, you start to realize, the problem's more in the brain than you think. And the second book that's coming out talks about what happens in the brain and the heart, or like, so when someone says, your heart's not working well, the answer is more of your brain's not working well. The brain controls it, basically. But Dr. Kemp proves that, because that was my question a long time ago. And he didn't necessarily have an answer. Like I said, it was a theory, but he's been working on it so much that he actually figured it out. And I'm like, wow, we gotta tell people about this.
So you all are writing another book together.
That's correct. Yes. So I have a short little section in it as like an update, and but it's mostly from Dr. Kemp's perspective. However, his story is very similar to mine. It's actually really cool. And he talks about some court cases where it was a medical physician versus chiropractic. And I'm like, wait, they have court cases? They have proof? So I'm like, it's really interesting. But yeah, the stuff that we left out was on purpose, definitely. Because like I said, it would have taken away from the ambiance of the whole journey as a whole. But we tried to make it. At first, I couldn't write. By the way, I cannot write. What I did learn how to do, I would think in bullet point forms, very logical. And then what I did is, as we were bringing more function to the right hemisphere of my brain by doing the chiropractic adjustments and the spinning, the right brain interprets the left. So the left is the logical, long-term memory and all that stuff, and the right just interprets it. So as I was able to learn how to interpret what I was thinking during that process, I read a whole bunch of Hemingway, and I really liked how he wrote because it was very interesting. But he had a ton of run-on sentences, which is how I think and how Dr. Kemp thinks as well. Yeah. But the way he did it was so interesting that you can't even tell that it was a run-on sentence. And I'm like, okay, so I read so much Hemingway that I started to create that personality. Mm. And then I actually started writing that with my hand first to get used to, it was a parietal lobe connection technically. When you write stuff down, you remember it more. Well, we, know why. But I would actually write first.
Better than when you input it on a keyboard?
It was for me at that time. Okay. But then as I started to become more fluid with it, the difference between me and a normal person is I catch on like 10 times faster. Right. Because of the one section of my brain that's way high firing that should not be high firing. And I wish it would stop sometimes. But that's the only difference really. I'm pretty much normal besides that. But I learned how to do it that way, and after I got that and I was able to interpret what I was thinking onto words with my limited vocabulary, and I literally had thesaurus like for everything. It was ridiculous what I had to use thesaurus for, because my vocabulary was that of a 5-year-old. But then once I graduated and we needed to actually put it into a Word document to send to the publisher in London, that's when I was able to articulate myself via the keystrokes. But that did not come naturally, basically. But now when I want to speak, I would do this. I would be able to type it, but at the first I had to write everything. That's why we took pictures of all the stuff, because I wasn't able to interpret it except with my hand.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. You've covered my questions. Oh, tell us a little bit more about the machine that you are building with the engineers within the functional neurology. Is it a gyro?
So yeah, okay. So yeah, that's the OVAR. That's a. Forgive me if I get it wrong. I see everything in pictures, so I mess up spelling, I mess up names, whatever, but I see the picture, right? Okay. So it's off vertical axis rotational device, OVAR. They have one currently now. It's really expensive, and Dr. Kemp asked me to make one that was cheaper. So
this is
I made
for
one that's cheaper.
vestibular healing also.
Yes.
Okay.
Why someone hasn't done it so far is beyond me. It's very simple. It's basically you get a Tesla sphere, and then you make a big hamster ball, with holes in it, obviously, and then inverted handles, so you're able to move it yourself. But the part on the bottom is the same frequency of teeth from the spheres that are gears. There's 3 of them on the bottom that are on a platform. Platform has the motor in it that you're able to plug into the wall, and then from there there's little bitty things that turn the smaller wheels in conjunction, all in unison, and then that in turn turns the big hamster ball. Now the big hamster ball on the bottom of it is weighted, obviously for safety reasons, and then offset ever so slightly.
So basically, you're sitting in a seat.
Yeah, you're
in
sitting in a
giant
5-point
ball.
Yeah, 5-point harness seat. You're sitting in a giant hamster ball, and then basically the doctor, physician, you cannot have a regular person do this. You'll hurt yourself, because if you spin too much to one way, it'll actually cause seizure and stroke, heart attack. So that's why it is a Class 2. It will be a Class 2 FDA medical device. Yes, absolutely. But you'll be able to control it via your app. Well, we also might have a station. He'd be able to pump stuff in, and then also it'll have clutches, electronic clutches on there. So you'd be able to put it into a certain mode, and then it'll have inverted handles, right? So then the doctor would be able to physically move it, and then the ball would be able to stay if you let go. And then if the safety part is if there were any power failures or whatever, well, since it is weighted offset, it would just go back to normal. The person would be able to exit.
Sitting up straight.
Yeah, and it would be like a spaceship technically. It's like the door would be, you'd be able to take it down, and then they'd walk up, and then basically. Then we
so
also
you're building
have
a spaceship, yeah.
Yeah.
To heal brains.
Right. And then we'll also have child seats, one for adolescent and then one for babies, because that was the main issue. That was the real reason that I designed it, because Dr. Kemp has a couple patients that are younger than 1, and luckily they're small enough to where you can just pick them up and spin them. Parents can do it. However, it's real taxing on the muscles, and on the body.
So both the child and the parents?
Yeah. Well, yeah, pretty much. So especially if you have a 1-year-old that's dystonic and they're stuck like this, right? And you have to spin her, and then as you spin her, her body starts to soften, like in real time. And and I'm like, oh, we need something, And the current product that has that is just too expensive. You'd have to get, pretty much a house loan, and then pay attention to your FICO 2 score to basically get a loan for that.
Doctors don't want to invest, $250,000.
Right. Yeah. Now there's a lot of clinics out there that have that, and they should have that definitely. The thing is you got to know what you're doing in order to really use it. You could really hurt someone. They've already had several people get hurt and have seizures, die. Yeah. Because they have strokes because you spend too much. Yeah. And the main purpose overall for writing this book is to get parents mainly to bring their child in before the age of 7 to get checked. That is the whole reason for this, and that's why it's written for adults specifically. And we understand I'm a statistics guy, right? So we understand that about 80% of readers are normally women. So that's why we wrote it a certain way to be geared towards that, even though it is written from a man's perspective. However, we wanted the theory that we have is if you get the mom to agree with that, then all of a sudden she'll fix everyone in the family. Yes. Unfortunately.
Right. That's true.
We do.
Yeah.
That's true.
So therefore, and that seems to be happening a lot. And Dr. Kemp's clinic has been getting a ton of people that said, oh yeah, I read the first part and my son has this or my daughter has that. And then all of a sudden they come in. And then, but that was the whole purpose, because at 7, 8 years old is when the brain goes into another part of human existence. So they start to morph and start to create a personality and stuff. And then after that, it's a lot more difficult to fix them in simplistic terms, to get rid of their lesion, ADD, ADHD, and all that stuff. Any problems, autism or Asperger's. So that's if my parents had known that this was available, which it was technically in the early 1990s.
Yeah.
If they had known to just take me to go see Dr. Carrick or someone else, whatever, down in Cape Canaveral, like it was, or at the time, he was in Florida, a couple hours away, really. If they had known to just, go give him to him, and then fix me within 6 visits. If you're under the age of 7, your body's so new and it adapts so quickly. Get fixed like that. But no, we decided to go the other route.
Toxicity or the plasticity or
and we're still going through it. I'm 36 now, and I'm still having to get adjusted. And I do a lot of the adjustments myself now, but still, I have to keep spinning. I have to keep doing, and it's gotten a lot more advanced now, but I have to keep doing it. So it'd be really nice if people knew, I should probably just go get checked. Like, really, that's all we're asking. Yeah. And then it's like, you got this. You skipped the crawl stage, so you're going to have ADHD. Okay, great. Let's go ahead and fix that now, and then the ADHD goes away. So alleviates.
Because I've just read the book, I'm so fascinated to have you here and hearing your story, because, again, you went from somebody that was monosyllabic, just saying 1 or 2 syllables, to then your parents not thinking that you'd be able to hold a job. Would you be in bed for the rest of your life? Then you got into a job and you started to excel at it. Then you went to Middle Georgia and started to work as a medical rep. And that's like, to me, when I see medical reps, they're on the ball with a personality. Their brain, they're working with these men and women that have been to medical school, and they're some of the brightest in our society. And so they have to give and take with those people. So you went from a situation where you were just 1 or 2 words or 3 or 4 words, and now you're giving and taking with the medical people and some of the brightest minds in our society. What was that like to make that move? Because that's like light years away from where you were just a few years before.
Yes. So, like I said, I had to work on my communication skills, and my boss had me go, since I did live in St. Augustine next to George Street, and they have a large community of other people from outside the city come in. He told me to go hit on girls at the bar at a practice rejection and practice closing, right? So you can use your imagination on that, but essentially I had to go and introduce myself to all that jazz, and I got so used to rejection, it didn't bother me anymore. So, and then it just got old after a while. So you just ask them, and then finally, I figured out the more genuine you were, then it would work, right? My problem was I was smarter than average, so I could learn all the material to some degree, and then also. But the part was I was very narcissistic. I was super obsessed with myself, and that's a right frontal lobe lesion. So since my frontal lobe wasn't necessarily as developed as it should have been at that time, I was only obsessed with myself, me, like a child, right? Mm-hmm. And also what we left out is what I'm about to tell you, which is I actually failed the medical exam to be an employee for the company that I worked for. Now, this is where my dad comes in, because he is, high up in the medical whatever, and he has a lot of connections. They were basically hiring me to get to his connections. And that's unfortunately the way it is in that world. But when I went to, they flew me down to Miami for the sales course, right, for the medical company. After I got after they said, yeah, we'll hire you, but they're putting me in the armpit of the U.S., right in the middle of Georgia. No one wants to go to the right middle of Georgia. So technically it's like, oh, this guy will. He doesn't have a choice. So I'm like, yeah, okay. So
you have a job.
I have a job, though.
Yeah.
And I was close to home.
Right, and I was getting paid and to go train and stuff. And I'm like, this is great, So I'm like, huh. But and they got me for a good price. So I wasn't complaining. I was more than happy. The thing is I actually was addicted to nicotine. I smoked before. Mm-hmm. I started smoking at 18 and didn't really stop. And then we found this out later, that since I was bedridden, I would still vape and still smoke, though. That was the only thing that was keeping me normal. And now the stuff is coming out that nicotine was actually helping alleviate the Lyme disease bugs and symptoms.
Really?
And I'm like, well, that's why I love smoking so much, right? It made me feel good. So basically, I still vaped, and I hid it from. My parents knew about it, but since I was able to hide it so well, they didn't really have a choice, and they told me to stop, but I didn't stop. So I kept vaping. Problem was I was trying to stop. It's like you go through this phase where it's like you're trying to stop nicotine, but it's so hard because it's one of the chemicals that goes past the blood-brain barrier, so it's highly addictive, right? So
one of the very most addictive.
Right. Oh yeah.
Yes.
So the reason why I failed, hands down, is because during the sales courses that you had to be there at 8:30 in the morning, and then you had to go all day, you had 2 breaks, but you didn't have enough time to go back to your room, right? Oh. And I'm not dumb enough to bring the vape pen with me, because it's kind of, at that time, they were really big compared to the really small ones now, right? So I couldn't bring it with me, so it was in my room. So imagine being a hardcore 2-pack-a-day smoker, and you can't smoke from 8:30 to 5 p.m. Yep. Imagine how ridiculously awful you feel. So your skin starts to go crazy, you start to go nuts, you have vasoconstriction, sorry. So you start to feel weird, like your head starts hurting and whatever. So yeah, I wasn't paying attention. I didn't give a crap about anyone.
So you weren't allowed to be even a cigarette smoker, so they wouldn't let you out.
Oh no, you can't work at a hospital and smoke. Oh yeah, if they knew that I had a vape pen walking into a hospital, I didn't do that. But you just don't. If you're in medical sales, you don't smoke. You don't smoke in front of the doctors. Yeah. That's no. That's a no, right? Yeah. But I was so good at hiding it that my parents necessarily didn't think it was a big deal, but it was a big deal. So yeah, I was not in a good mood during that entire experience, and I actually failed the test. So imagine. Being like I said, 2-pack-a-day smoker, and then and learning all the materials, and then trying to take a test, you'd pretty much fail, because it's like I can't focus. I just wanted to get out of there. I did the test so fast and didn't even care if I got it or not, because I was like, this is awful. All I want to do is go back to my room and smoke on my vape, and enjoy myself. Right? I didn't give a crap, and I wanted to just go back home. Like, that's how bad it was, right? So I didn't care if they fired me. I didn't care if they, let me on and stuff. However, they had already spent so much money on me, and because of my dad's connections and that I was actually intelligent when they first tested me on my own time while I was vaping, they're like, okay, can you take the test again in a year when they have the thing open up in Orlando? And I'm like, sure. And then stayed with.
Vapes will be smaller.
Oh yeah, well yeah, exactly. They had no idea that I vaped. They still had no idea, right? And but yeah, I learned that if you are vaping and you do want to stop, the best way is to don't go cold turkey. That causes seizures, we found out. But basically, what you do is you get down to almost 1 or 2 puffs every 6 hours. And then from there, what you do is you take large amounts of, vitamin C and niacin, obviously. Since nicotine is a vasoconstrictor, nicotinic acid is a vasodilator, along with the vitamin C to decrease the free radicals inside your body. But what you do is you get activated charcoal, and you get large amounts of that. It's kind of like what all the dudes that when they go to a work convention, and then they know they're going to have fun, but they have to work the next day. They'll start drinking a lot, and then when they get back, they'll take 2 or 3 activated charcoal pills, and all of a sudden they have no hangover. To absorb it. Yeah. Works the same way with nicotine. So what you do is you lower your nicotine levels.
You take activated charcoal?
Well, you lower your nicotine levels to a point where you do the equivalent of 1 cigarette a day. So you have to lower your own nicotine levels to a point where there's a lower threshold. And then what you do is you get activated charcoal and do a large amount of it. And what that does is it coats the inside of your gut and it absorbs all the nicotine. And then that will decrease your nicotine cravings in the morning. And as long as you decrease your nicotine cravings in the morning, you can pretty much go all day without nicotine. And then do that activated charcoal for 3 days in a row, 3, 4, 5 days in a row, then all of a sudden you don't want nicotine anymore.
Wow.
So that's how I quit, basically, giving everyone the... We didn't talk about that because it was irrelevant and it made me look stupid, like everything else. So, yeah.
So we know too much now.
Right.
So you ended up, even after you didn't pass the test, you ended up in Middle Georgia, Moultrie, Valdosta, that type of area.
Yeah.
Yeah. And peanut farms and and things like that. So
peach farms.
Peach farms.
It's Georgia. Yeah.
So what was it like when you started to knock on doors and talk to physicians about the products that you were selling? Again, this person that a few years before was having a problem stringing sentences together.
Yeah.
Now you had to talk for a living. You had to communicate to people for a living, and you got to be really good at it, apparently.
I increased sales in the territory by 30%, but it was weird. I had a wonderful mentor. He doesn't think he's a good mentor, but he was an absolute wonderful mentor. He actually had a son that has Down syndrome, so he actually took. He took. We left that out too. I didn't want to do that to him, but wonderful individual. But he was like the sales master. He could work into any situation and just like all of a sudden the person's like bending over backwards for him, and I'm like, how, what? So I learned, but I learned from him, and his way on how he navigates the hospital system and really understood how to get in front of someone. I learned his tricks and then learned from the other people that were in surrounding territories. There's one gentleman in Louisiana that I indirectly analyzed, and then also there were other sales reps that I analyzed, and everyone had their own specialty and field. So I basically summed it down to 2 things. You have sales reps that work over the phone and just make phone calls all day and get people to agree to stuff and then write emails afterwards. Then you have the other sales reps that are more knock on doors, more hands-on, more in your face, doing FaceTime stuff. So they're better in person. And the cool thing about the gentleman that was my mentor was he was good at both. So I was able to see both sides. Now on the phone, I was awful. I stuttered. I didn't sound confident. I had many people hang up on me, like, who is this person? Why are you talking to me? So I found out my expertise wasn't necessarily closing. Since I was an assistant technically to the territory, I wasn't a full-on blown sales rep yet, but I was a sales rep to some degree. But I was the assistant to my mentor. My expertise was in getting the appointment and not necessarily closing. So my thing was I would show up in scrubs or a suit, depending on what they would allow, and then I would look the part, act the part, and I would almost go into like a sort of acting mode, and I acted confident, but I really wasn't, and I had to learn how to be like my mentor, and I would like envision how he would do it, and then do it that way. And I'd always carry something with you, and then I would have a pen with me, so I'd look kind of like a nerd and approachable. Like I still do that, actually. And then we would, I would go, and I didn't even see the doctors. So let me make that clear. Like I barely saw the doctors. They didn't necessarily make their own schedule. You have to find out who makes the schedule.
That's
so
who you would see.
Exactly. And I would get the appointments by sending really good emails because I had time to think about what to say, and I had a thesaurus. I can't even say it. And I would send really good emails and do it a certain way, and you'd have to. They always say you gotta, touch them metaphorically 7 times before they even make a choice on what it is, right? And then I found ways indirectly on how to get in front of the doctor. And these physicians, they're busy. They have no time for anything, right? So you'd go to the scheduler, you make phone calls to just ask them questions on when they're available. And then you'd basically, you can call it whatever you want. You're manipulating the system in your favor, technically. But you'd find out what their current system was, and then you would hand out flyers, you'd call them, you'd send them notes, handwritten notes. You would do all the indirect stuff that no one would really think about doing, because most sales reps just want to call, and then they want you to say, yeah, come on in. But that only works if you know the physician. Well, how do you do that? That takes forever.
Right.
So that was since I was not good at communication, that's how I got the appointments for my boss, my mentor. And that's how we were able to get a couple more physicians to use our ultrasonic osteotomes for the lumbar surgeries. So the thing is on paper, I was great. But in person speaking, they'd be like, "Who is this person? Get out of my face. You sound like you're really stupid."
Yeah.
But
So-
now you're very different.
Yeah.
Oh yes, because
And
we
tell us a little
yeah.
bit more. I know we can't go on for too much longer about what you're doing.
We did the Seven Bridge Angel trailer.
Okay.
You're probably not aware of it. It's on IMDb. We did it as part of an awareness trailer, technically, about an angel that technically gets brain damage, and then he has to do certain angel things to bring, come back to angel status, technically. And it's the same concept as me and of that, except it's for all audiences, and it's rated G. So, and that.
So is Seven Bridge Angel available now?
Well, that's also in the works as well. So both.
Okay.
So we have been approached on both.
Okay.
And we are working things out. And as we are finding out, it is a pay-to-play world we live in. So, and I do understand that, and that's why it is taking forever. But they're waiting to see if it's going to be if there's going to be more traction. So stuff like this, the podcast, the foundation, and stuff like that just helps. And eventually, as people start to respond to it, either positively or negatively, doesn't matter, then you'll start to see it pop up on stuff. So on TV and whatever. But we're trying to, like I said, bring the concept. And from the awareness trailer, we actually got a lot of people to come see Dr. Kemp from that. So it did. And I mentioned that in the book as well, because I wanted people to see that we're trying to tell people about it in all avenues, because that is, that would be the equivalent of like a rated R movie, that book versus the Seven Bridge Angel, which is geared towards a more adolescent audience. Okay. So we kind of did both, and then the foundation is the nonprofit that's for everyone, and I have to edit all everyone. Yes. Everyone on the videos. For all audiences, yeah. So, well, thank you for watching.
Thank you.
And thank you for your help, Jess. And thank you to all the audience. And we'll see you next time. on Better Than Air.
So